The moment my sister announced her pregnancy at my baby shower, I knew exactly whose child she was carrying. I'd known for weeks, but hearing the words come out of Sienna's mouth made my stomach turn. The pink and blue balloons suddenly felt like they were closing in on me, mocking the perfect life I'd pretended to have. My name is Melanie, and I was supposed to be celebrating my own miracle pregnancy after years of trying. Instead, I sat there, surrounded by friends and family, watching my younger sister steal my moment with the precision of a surgeon wielding a knife. I just couldn't keep it in any longer, Sienna squealed, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. I'm going to be a mommy too! The room erupted in excited chatter, but I kept my eyes fixed on my husband Leon. He stood frozen by the punch bowl, his face drained of color. 6 years of marriage, and I'd never seen him look so terrified. As we move through this narrative, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Also, if these stories resonate with you, consider subscribing for daily episodes. Now, continuing our story. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful! My mother Violet exclaimed, rushing to embrace Sienna. Both my girls pregnant at the same time! Who's the father? The silence that followed was deafening. I counted the seconds, watching Sienna's perfectly glossed lips quiver. 3, 2, 1. I'd rather not say right now, she stammered, shooting a quick glance at Leon. I stood up slowly, steadying myself against the chair. Why don't you tell them, Sienna? Or should I? Melanie, please. Leon stepped forward, his voice trembling. We should talk about this privately. Private? I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign to my own ears. Like those private meetings you've been having with my sister for the past 3 months? Gasps filled the room. My friend Isabel grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. Mel, breathe, she whispered. The father, I announced, my voice carrying across the stunned silence, is standing right there by the punch bowl. My husband, Leon. The room exploded into chaos. My mother collapsed into my father's arms, while Wendy, Leon's mother, stood rigid with shock. Sienna burst into tears, mascara running down her cheeks. How did you know? She sobbed. I pulled out my phone, fingers steady as I typed in my passcode. Because I have proof. Would anyone like to see the security camera footage from my own home? The cameras I installed 3 weeks ago when I first suspected something was wrong? You recorded us? Leon's face contorted with anger. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. I consulted a lawyer before installing cameras in my own home. Would you like to see yourself sneaking my sister in through the back door while I was at my prenatal appointments? Or maybe the footage from last Tuesday, when you thought I was having lunch with Isabel? Sienna lunged forward, reaching for my phone. Delete it! You can't show anyone! Watch me! I stepped back, cradling my bump protectively. You both chose to betray me in my own home, while I'm carrying your child, Leon. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I love him, Sienna blurted out, tears streaming down her face. We didn't mean for this to happen. I turned to face her, years of competitive sisterhood crystallizing into this moment. You didn't mean to sleep with my husband, multiple times, in my bed, while I was trying to help him build his political career. Melanie! My father's stern voice cut through the chaos. This isn't the way to handle family matters. Family matters? I echoed. Is that what we're calling adultery now? Leon approached me, hands raised in surrender. Baby, please, we can work this out. Think about our child. I am thinking about our child, I replied coldly. I'm thinking about how they deserve better than a father who cheats with their aunt. Wendy suddenly appeared at my side, her presence unexpected and steady. Leon, how could you do this to your wife, to your unborn child? The support from my mother-in-law, who had always been critical of me, nearly broke my composure. But I held firm, remembering the nights I'd spent crying while watching the footage, preparing for this moment. Everyone needs to leave, I announced, my voice steady. The party's over, and Leon, don't bother coming home tonight, or ever. As the guests filed out in shocked silence, Isabel stayed by my side. Sienna tried one last time to approach me, but Wendy stepped between us. You've done enough damage, Wendy told her coldly. When the last guest had gone, I sank into a chair, surrounded by cheerful baby shower decorations that now seemed like props in a horror show. Isabel brought me water, her hand rubbing circles on my back. "What are you going to do now?" she asked softly. I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling my baby kick. Now? Now I'm going to show the world exactly who Leon Hall really is. He wanted to be in the public eye so badly? Well, he's about to get his wish. I pulled up the video footage on my phone, my finger hovering over the upload button. 6 years of supporting his political dreams, of putting my filmmaking career on hold, of being the perfect politician's wife. All of it had led to this moment. "Are you sure about this?" Isabel asked. I pressed upload. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The video had barely finished uploading when my phone started buzzing with notifications. I sat in my home office, surrounded by the equipment I'd once used for my documentaries, now collecting dust while I'd played the role of supportive political wife. Isabel paced behind me, biting her nails. "The views are climbing fast, Mel. Really fast. Good." I clicked through the footage again, making sure I hadn't missed anything in the edit. The timestamps were clear, the audio crisp. There would be no denying what they'd done. My phone rang. Leon's campaign manager. Ignore. Another call. Sienna. Ignore. My mother. Ignore. "Remember when we were in film school?" I asked Isabel, gesturing to the awards on my shelf. "My documentary about women in politics won that festival in Boston. How could I forget? You were brilliant." Isabel stopped pacing. "And then you met Leon." The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. He was so charming back then, said all the right things about supporting my career, about how we'd be partners. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Parker, my old film school friend. I answered on speaker. "Holy shit, Mel!" His voice crackled through. "Your video is everywhere. Twitter's exploding." "Is it?" I tried to sound casual, but my heart was racing. The rising star politician caught with his pregnant sister-in-law? It's media gold. But listen, that's not why I'm calling. The footage quality, the editing. You haven't lost your touch. I laughed bitterly. Glad my husband's affair could showcase my filmmaking skills. I'm serious, Mel. Remember that documentary series we talked about years ago? About women rebuilding their lives after betrayal? Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Isabel peered through the window. "It's your parents," she whispered, "and they look pissed." I took a deep breath. "Parker, I'll call you back." Opening the door, I faced my father's thunderous expression and my mother's tear-stained face. "What have you done?" My father pushed past me into the house. "Do you have any idea what this will do to our family?" "Our family!" I shut the door harder than necessary. "You mean the family where my sister slept with my husband?" "We could have handled this privately," my mother pleaded. "Now everyone knows. The neighbors, our church." "Good." I stood my ground. "Let them know. Let them see exactly who Sienna and Leon really are." "You're carrying his child!" My father's voice boomed through the house. "Did you think about your baby's future before you posted that video?" I thought about giving my child a mother who stands up for herself instead of playing pretend while being humiliated." My mother sank onto the couch. "Sienna called us sobbing. She says she can't leave her apartment. Reporters are camped outside." "That's rich," Isabel muttered. "She didn't mind sneaking around when it suited her." My father turned on her. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," I cut in. "Isabel has been more family to me than either of you right now. Where was this outrage when your younger daughter was destroying my marriage?" The doorbell rang again. This time it was Wendy, carrying several bags. "I brought your favorite pasta from Giovanni's," she announced, walking straight to the kitchen. "And some of those chocolate cookies you've been craving." My parents stared in disbelief as Leon's mother began unpacking groceries like it was any normal day. "Wendy," my mother started, "surely you understand this public scandal isn't helping anyone." "What I understand," Wendy replied sharply, "is that my son and your daughter betrayed my pregnant daughter-in-law. The public scandal is their doing, not Melanie's. My father stepped forward. Now listen here. No, you listen. Wendy's voice could have frozen hell. I raised Leon better than this, and I'm ashamed of him. But I'm even more ashamed of you two, defending the indefensible. My phone buzzed again. Parker texting. Seriously, call me about the documentary. This could be your comeback. Looking around my office at the dusty equipment, I felt something stir inside me. Not just anger or hurt, but possibility. You know what? I addressed my parents. You're right. I did think about my baby's future. I thought about what kind of example I want to set. Should I teach them to stay quiet when they're wronged? To protect people who hurt them? Melanie, my mother began. No. I gave up my dreams to support Leon's career. I played the perfect wife while he— my voice cracked. While he slept with my sister. I'm done being quiet. Wendy appeared with a plate of cookies. Eat something, dear. The baby needs it. My father threw up his hands in frustration. This is insane. You're all insane. Maybe, I said, taking a cookie, but I'm not the one who cheated. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to call Parker back. I have a documentary to plan. As my parents left in angry silence, I caught Wendy smiling slightly. What? I asked. Nothing, she replied. I just remember when Leon first brought you home. I thought you were too ambitious, too independent for him. Now I realize he was never good enough for you. I picked up my phone, finding Parker's number. Maybe it was time to be ambitious again. The pounding on my front door started at 7 a.m. I knew it was Leon before I even checked the security camera feed on my phone. Wendy, who'd insisted on staying overnight, was already heading toward the door. Don't, I called out. Let him knock. Melanie! Leon's voice carried through the door. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Wendy's face hardened. That's my son out there, and I have some choice words for him. Before I could stop her, she yanked the door open. Leon stood there in his rumpled suit from yesterday, looking like he hadn't slept. Mother? His eyes widened. What are you doing here? Supporting the woman you betrayed, Wendy replied coldly. The one carrying my grandchild. Leon pushed past her into the house. The video, Melanie, you have to take it down. My campaign team is in meltdown. Your campaign team? I laughed. That's what you're worried about? This isn't just about us anymore. He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. The party chairman called. They're withdrawing their support. Everything we worked for. So, everything you worked for, I corrected him. While I put my life on hold to be your perfect political wife. Please, he stepped closer. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Counseling, whatever you want. Wendy moved between us. The time for fixing things was before you slept with her sister. Mother, stay out of this. Don't you dare speak to her like that, I snapped. She's been more supportive than you've ever been. Leon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. The local news wants a statement. Sienna's being harassed at work. This is getting out of control. Out of control? I walked to my office and returned with a USB drive. Like sneaking around behind my back wasn't out of control. Here, want to watch the highlights reel? You're being vindictive, he accused. No, I'm being honest. Something you should try sometime. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered. Yes, sir. No, sir. I understand. I'll be there in 20 minutes. After hanging up, he looked at me pleadingly. That was the party chairman. He's giving me one chance to salvage this. Come with me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, that the video was taken out of context. Are you insane? Wendy interjected. You want her to lie for you? It's not lying, it's damage control. I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling my baby kick. Get out! Melanie, get out. My voice was steel. And take these with you. I threw a stack of papers at him. Divorce papers. My lawyer dropped them off last night. Leon picked up the papers, his hands shaking. You can't be serious. Think about the baby. I am thinking about the baby. I'm thinking about how I don't want them growing up watching their father lie and cheat his way through life. You've ruined everything, he spat, his charming politician's mask finally cracking. My career, my reputation. You ruined those things yourself, Wendy cut in. Now leave before I forget you're my son. After Leon stormed out, my phone rang. It was Parker again. Tell me you're watching the news, he said when I answered. I'm trying not to. Well, your story's gone viral. 3 networks want interviews. But forget them. I've got better news. Remember my producer friend at Summit Productions? She wants to meet about your documentary idea. I sat down hard. What? Your video showed everyone you haven't lost your touch. Plus, you've got a built-in hook now. Personal experience with betrayal, revenge, redemption. It's compelling stuff. Wendy brought me a glass of water. Concern on her face. I don't know, Parker. I'm about to be a single mom. I've got divorce proceedings to deal with. Which is exactly why you should do this. When's the last time you felt excited about your work? Really excited? I glanced at my old camera equipment, remembering the thrill of capturing real stories, of creating something meaningful. The meeting's tomorrow at 10, Parker continued. I'll pick you up. Say yes. Wendy squeezed my shoulder. Say yes, dear. It's time you started living for yourself again. I took a deep breath. Okay. Yes. After hanging up, I opened my laptop to find my inbox flooded with messages. One caught my eye, from Sienna. Please talk to me. I know I don't deserve it, but please, I'm so sorry. Wendy peered at the screen. Are you going to respond? I closed the laptop. Not today. Today, I'm going to dig out my old storyboards and start planning my comeback. That's my girl, Wendy smiled. And Melanie? For what it's worth, I always thought you were wasted on political wives' luncheons. I felt tears welling up, but for the first time in weeks, they weren't from sadness. Thank you, Wendy, for everything. Don't thank me yet, she replied, heading to the kitchen. Wait until you taste my morning sickness remedy. It's disgusting, but it works. I smiled, placing my hand on my bump again. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all this pain. Parker's Tesla pulled up to Summit Productions exactly at 9:45 a.m. I smoothed my maternity dress, trying to look professional despite my growing bump. Stop fidgeting, Parker said, opening my door. You look great. I look like I'm smuggling a watermelon. You look like a badass filmmaker who's about to get her second chance. The lobby was all glass and chrome, worlds away from the political fundraisers I'd gotten used to. A receptionist led us to a conference room where Sarah, the producer Parker had mentioned, was waiting. Melanie! She stood to greet me. Your video's gotten 3 million views since yesterday. But more importantly, the raw emotion, the timing of those cuts. Brilliant work. I settled into a chair. Thank you, though I wish the subject matter had been different. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Sarah pulled out a tablet. Your story. Successful woman betrayed by husband and sister, using her art to expose the truth. It's compelling. But what if we went bigger? Bigger? A documentary series. Women who faced betrayal and emerged stronger. Your story would be the thread that ties it all together, but we'd feature others too. Show how different women handle similar pain. My phone buzzed. Another message from Sienna. I turned it face down. Speaking of pain, Parker interjected, have you seen the morning news? Sarah nodded. Your husband's press conference? Already trending. What press conference? Sarah turned her tablet toward me, showing Leon standing at a podium, Sienna by his side. My stomach lurched. Deeply regret any pain we've caused, Leon was saying. While the circumstances are unfortunate, Sienna and I are committed to taking responsibility for our actions and moving forward together. Turn it off, I whispered. They're trying to control the narrative, Parker said. Make themselves look like star-crossed lovers instead of cheaters, which is exactly why your documentary could be so powerful. Sarah leaned forward. Let's tell the real story, not just yours, but every woman who's been told to stay quiet, to save face, to think of the family. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Have you seen the news? Please call us. We can still fix this. Fix what? I muttered. Their public image? Use it, Sarah said. Channel that anger into something meaningful. Summit's prepared to offer you full creative control and a budget that'll let you do this right. Before I could respond, the conference room door burst open. Isabel rushed in, out of breath. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a social media post from Sienna. My sister's video only showed one side. The truth is more complicated. Leon and I found love in an impossible situation. We never meant to hurt anyone. Found love? My voice shook. In my house? While I was pregnant? There's more. Isabel scrolled down. People are actually defending them, calling it a love story. Some are saying you're the villain for exposing them. Sarah watched me carefully. How does that make you feel? Like I want to scream. I stood up, pacing. Like I want everyone to know what it feels like to have your life blown apart by the two people you trusted most. So tell them, Parker said quietly. Not through revenge videos, but through real stories. Show them what betrayal really looks like, what survival really costs. My phone buzzed yet again. A text from Wendy. Don't let their press conference get to you. You're stronger than their lies. Looking around the room, at Parker's encouragement, Isabel's fierce loyalty, Sarah's professional interest, I felt something click into place. If we do this, I turned to Sarah, I want to interview them too. Other betrayed spouses, other siblings who've been betrayed. Show all sides of what infidelity does to families. Absolutely. Sarah was already taking notes. We could start production next month. I'm pregnant, I reminded her. Due in 4 months. Even better. Your journey through pregnancy, divorce, and professional rebirth? That's compelling television. And healing, Parker added. Don't forget that part. My phone lit up with another message from Sienna. Please, let me explain. I never meant for any of this to happen. I picked up the phone, finally ready to respond. You're right. The truth is complicated. That's why I'm going to tell all of it. Does that mean you're in? Sarah asked. I looked at my reflection in the conference room window. Pregnant, scared, but somehow stronger than I'd been in years. I'm in, but I want to start filming today, right now, while their press conference is still fresh. Sarah grinned. I'll have contracts drawn up within the hour. Parker, can you get a crew together? Already texting them. Isabel squeezed my hand. You're really doing this? Yes, I said, feeling more certain with each passing moment. It's time to show the world what really happens after the affair is exposed, after the scandal dies down, after the pretty lies fall apart. And what happens then? Sarah asked. Then? I smiled, thinking of my baby, my future, my rediscovered passion. Then we rise from the ashes, and we film every second of it. 2 weeks into filming, my living room had become a makeshift studio. Camera equipment replaced the political campaign photos I'd taken down, and release forms covered the coffee table where Leon's polling data used to sit. Tell me about the moment you first suspected something was wrong, Parker asked from behind the camera. I adjusted my position on the couch, one hand resting on my growing belly. It was little things at first. Leon working late, Sienna showing up at odd hours, claiming she was just in the neighborhood. Cut, Sarah called from her director's chair. Melanie, that's good. But let's dig deeper. What did it feel like? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the security camera feed, I saw Wendy standing there with several shopping bags. 5-minute break, Sarah announced as I went to answer the door. I brought maternity clothes, Wendy announced, bustling in. And before you protest, these are designer pieces from my boutique. The camera will love them. Mom? A familiar voice called from behind her. I froze as Leon stepped into view. What are you doing here? I backed away. I invited him, Wendy said firmly. It's time you two discuss the divorce terms face to face. With a film crew present? The crew can leave, Leon said quickly. Please, Melanie, 10 minutes? Sarah caught my eye from across the room, raising an eyebrow. I nodded slightly, and she ushered everyone out, leaving just me, Leon, and Wendy. I'll be in the kitchen, Wendy said. Behave yourselves. Leon looked around the transformed living room. So you're really doing this? Making a documentary? Yes. Unlike some people, I'm not hiding from the truth. That's not fair. Sienna and I. Don't, I cut him off. Don't say her name in my house. He sat heavily on the couch. The divorce papers. I'll sign them, but I want joint custody. Absolutely not. That's my child, too. The child you were so concerned about while sleeping with my sister? I laughed bitterly. The one you thought about during your press conference with her? We had to do something. Your video destroyed my career, my reputation. Your actions destroyed those things, I corrected him. I just pressed record. Leon leaned forward, his politician's mask cracking. What do you want from me, Melanie? Money? I'll give you whatever you want. Just stop this documentary. What I want? I felt my baby kick, as if reinforcing my resolve. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know what it's like to have your whole world exposed as a lie. It wasn't all a lie. His voice softened. We had good years, didn't we? Did we? Or was I just a convenient stepping stone for your ambitions? Wendy appeared in the doorway. Everything okay in here? Fine. Leon stood up. I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the custody arrangements. Don't bother, I said. You'll get supervised visitation. That's my final offer. You can't do this. Actually, she can, Wendy interjected. And before you argue, remember that video evidence of adultery tends to influence family court judges. Leon's face reddened. Mother, whose side are you on? The side of right and wrong, she replied calmly. Something I clearly failed to teach you properly. After Leon stormed out, Sarah poked her head in. Everything okay? Because that would have made amazing footage. It's fine, I managed a smile. But I think I know what I want to film next. What's that? I want to interview other mothers-in-law, women who've had to choose between loyalty to their children and loyalty to what's right. Wendy's eyes welled up. Oh dear. Would you be my first interview? I asked her. She wiped her eyes. Of course, but first, you need to try on these clothes and eat something. That baby needs nourishment. As Wendy fussed over me, Sarah started setting up the equipment again. Parker came in with a fresh memory card. You okay? He asked quietly. That couldn't have been easy. Actually, it was. I touched my bump gently. For the first time since this all happened, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Speaking of where you're supposed to be, Sarah interrupted. Your first interview with another betrayed wife is tomorrow. She's a corporate lawyer whose husband had an affair with his assistant. Classic, Parker muttered. Not classic, I corrected him. Real, painful, important. That's what this documentary's about. The real stories behind the headlines and cliches. Wendy returned with a plate of fruit. Eat. Then we'll film my interview. I have quite a few things to say about my son's behavior. Are you sure? I asked. He's still your son. Yes, and I love him. But loving someone doesn't mean excusing their mistakes. She straightened my dress collar. Now, let's show the world what real family loyalty looks like. I picked up a strawberry, watching my crew prepare for the next shot. 6 months ago, I'd been playing the perfect political wife. Now I was creating something real, something honest, something that might actually help others. Maybe betrayal hadn't destroyed my life after all. Maybe it had just shown me who I really was. The coffee shop was neutral territory, which is why I agreed to meet Sienna there. 7 months pregnant and deep into filming, I hadn't seen my sister since the baby shower disaster. Parker insisted on coming with me, camera in hand. We don't have to film this, he said as we walked in. Yes, we do. The story isn't complete without her side. Sienna was already there, fidgeting with her cup. Her baby bump was visible now, smaller than mine, but unmistakable. She stood when she saw me, uncertainty written across her face. Mel, she started. Sit down, I said, lowering myself carefully into a chair. You wanted to talk. So talk. She glanced at Parker's camera. Does that have to be here? You didn't mind cameras when you were doing press conferences with Leon. Sienna flinched. I deserve that. I deserve all of it. But please, can we talk just as sisters first? I nodded to Parker, who stepped back but kept rolling. Sisters? I laughed quietly. Is that what we are? I know I ruined everything. Tears welled in her eyes. But you have to understand, I never meant to fall in love with my husband, to get pregnant with his child, to destroy my marriage. Any of it. She wiped her eyes. It just happened, and then it kept happening, and I couldn't stop. Couldn't or wouldn't. A waitress approached with my decaf tea. The normalcy of the moment, two pregnant sisters having coffee, felt surreal. Both, Sienna admitted. He made me feel special, important, like I wasn't just your screw-up little sister anymore. And now? Does he make you feel special when he's meeting with his lawyers about custody arrangements? When he's trying to salvage what's left of his career? She stared into her cup. He's different now, distant. The press coverage, losing the election nomination. He's not the same person. He's exactly the same person, I corrected her. You're just seeing him clearly for the first time. Parker moved closer with the camera as Sienna's tears fell faster. Mom and Dad won't talk to me anymore, she whispered. They say they're ashamed. That's rich, considering how they defended you both at first. They were trying to protect the family name, but now, she placed a hand on her bump. Now they say I've ruined everything. The family, your marriage, my own future. For the first time, I felt a flicker of sympathy. You did ruin those things, but maybe that's not the end of the story. She looked up, hope crossing her face. What do you mean? My documentary. It's not just about exposing affairs. It's about what happens after. How people rebuild or don't. How families either heal or fall apart completely. And which are we? She asked softly. I don't know yet, but I do know this. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just disappointed. In you, in Leon, in how easily you both threw away everything that mattered. A kick from my baby made me wince. Sienna noticed. Do you know what you're having? A girl. You. A boy. She smiled sadly. They'll be cousins. They'll be something, I agreed. But what that looks like depends on you. On whether you're really sorry or just sorry you got caught. Parker's camera caught the moment Sienna broke down completely. I'm sorry for everything, she sobbed. For betraying you, for the press conference, for not being a better sister. I don't expect forgiveness, but please don't cut me out completely. I took a sip of my tea, letting the moment stretch. I'm interviewing women who've been through similar situations, I finally said. Some have reconciled with their families, some haven't, but they all had to face the truth first. What truth? That actions have consequences. That I'm sorry doesn't fix everything. That rebuilding trust takes more than tears and promises. She nodded slowly. I want to do better, to be better. For my son, if nothing else. Then prove it. I stood up, one hand supporting my back. Start by telling the truth on camera. No more love story spin, no more excuses. Just honesty. Now? Now? I nodded to Parker, who adjusted his camera. Tell everyone what really happened, Sienna. Not the press conference version. The truth. She took a deep breath, looking directly into the lens. My name is Sienna, and I slept with my sister's husband. This is what really happened. As she began to speak, I watched my little sister finally take responsibility for her actions. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But maybe it was a start. Parker caught my eye over the camera, giving me a thumbs up. This was the raw honesty my documentary needed. The messy, painful truth about betrayal and its aftermath. My daughter kicked again, stronger this time. I pressed my hand to the spot, thinking about the future. About two cousins who didn't ask for any of this drama. About sisters who might, someday, find a way forward. But first, we had to tell the truth. All of it. No matter how much it hurt. 5 minutes to screening. Sarah called out across the private theater. My heart was racing as I watched the industry professionals and early viewers file in. 8 months pregnant and wearing a dress Wendy had picked out, I stood in the back, gripping Parker's arm. The documentary was finally ready for its first test audience. Breathe, Parker whispered. You've got this. What if they hate it? What if it's too personal? That's exactly why they'll love it. Isabel appeared with a glass of water. Because it's real. The lights dimmed. My stomach clenched as the opening scene began. The security camera footage that had started everything, but now intercut with interviews, revealing the deeper story behind the viral scandal. Leon's voice filled the theater. I lost everything because I couldn't be honest. With my wife, with myself, with anyone. Then Sienna. We thought we were living some great love story, but we were just two selfish people destroying someone we claimed to love. I felt movement beside me. Wendy had arrived, taking my other arm. You should be sitting down, she whispered. I can't. I need to watch their reactions. On screen, the story expanded beyond my personal drama. A CEO's wife described discovering her husband's decade-long affair. A teacher shared how her sister had betrayed her with her fiancé. Each story wove together with mine, creating a tapestry of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. Halfway through, I heard sniffling from the audience. Several women were wiping their eyes. A few men shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the scene that still hurt to watch, my confrontation with Leon over custody. You can't keep my child from me! His voice boomed through the speakers. I'm not, my on-screen self replied calmly. I'm protecting her from learning the wrong lessons about love and loyalty. The theater grew silent as the scene played out. I felt my baby kick, as if she knew we were watching her father. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I grabbed Parker's arm tighter. You okay? He whispered. Just Braxton Hicks, I assured him, though something felt different this time. The documentary continued, showing Sienna's raw confession at the coffee shop, followed by interviews with therapists discussing the psychology of infidelity and betrayal. Then came Wendy's powerful testimony about choosing truth over family loyalty. Another pain hit, stronger this time. Wendy noticed my grimace. Melanie? She touched my arm. Is it time? No, it can't be. I'm not due for another week. The film reached its climax. A montage of all the women interviewed, including me, talking about moving forward. About finding strength in vulnerability. About turning pain into purpose. As the final scene faded to black, I felt liquid running down my leg. Oh, God, I whispered. The lights came up as the credits rolled. The audience burst into applause, but I barely heard it through the rushing in my ears. My water just broke, I announced quietly. Parker sprang into action. Sarah, we need to get Melanie to the hospital. The applause turned to concerned murmurs as Sarah rushed over. But the Q&A session, she started. We'll have to wait, Wendy cut in firmly. This baby has her own timing. Isabel already had her phone out. I'm calling your doctor. As they helped me toward the exit, a voice called out from the audience. Is everything okay? The star of our documentary is about to become a mother, Sarah announced. I'd say that's a perfect ending, wouldn't it? More applause erupted, along with calls of good luck and congratulations. In the car, between contractions, I called Sienna. We'd been talking more since her interview, taking small steps toward healing. It's happening, I told her. Your niece is coming. Now? But the screening. Apparently, she wanted to make her own dramatic entrance. Another contraction hit. Listen, I know we planned to wait, but would you come to the hospital? Not in the room, but nearby? The line went quiet for a moment. Really? You want me there? You're still my sister, and she's still your niece. Parker drove while Wendy held my hand in the back seat. Isabel followed in her car with my hospital bag. Should we call Leon? Wendy asked quietly. I shook my head. The custody agreement says he gets notified after she's born, not before. Another contraction came as we pulled up to the hospital. Through the pain, I thought about the documentary, about all the women who'd shared their stories of survival. Now I was about to write the next chapter of my own story. The screening! I gasped as they helped me out of the car. We didn't even get to hear what they thought. Are you kidding? Parker grinned. Your baby just gave us the most dramatic ending possible. They loved it. As they wheeled me into the hospital, I realized he was right. This wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. For me, for my daughter, for all the women who would see their own stories reflected in mine. Ready? Wendy squeezed my hand. I nodded through another contraction. Ready for everything. And the award for Best Documentary Feature goes to After the Affair, Stories of Betrayal and Redemption by Melanie Hall. The audience erupted in applause as I made my way to the stage, my 4-month-old daughter Emma sleeping peacefully against my chest in her carrier. This wasn't how acceptance speeches usually went at prestigious film festivals, but I'd refused to leave her with anyone else. Thank you, I began, adjusting the microphone. This film started as an act of revenge, but it became something much more important. To all the women who shared their stories, who turned their pain into power, this is for you. In the front row, I saw Wendy dabbing her eyes. Next to her sat Sienna, her own son nestled in her arms. Our children, born just 2 weeks apart, had become an unexpected bridge between us. To my daughter, I continued, touching Emma's back gently, who kicked through every interview and made her grand entrance at our first screening. You taught me that new beginnings can come from broken endings. After the ceremony, the theater lobby buzzed with conversation. Critics and industry professionals crowded around, but I was focused on the group of women gathered near the refreshment table. My documentary subjects, all here to celebrate. You did us proud. Maria, the CEO's wife, hugged me carefully around Emma. My divorce was finalized yesterday, and watching this film reminded me why I'm stronger for walking away. Speaking of walking away, Isabel appeared with her phone. Have you seen the news? Leon's political comeback attempt just failed spectacularly. I heard, I nodded. Turns out voters have long memories when it comes to scandal. Good, Wendy joined us. Maybe now he'll focus on being a decent father during his visitation hours instead of chasing power. Parker approached with a champagne flute of ginger ale. Sorry to interrupt, but Netflix is interested. They want to turn this into a series, featuring new stories each episode. Really? I shifted Emma, who was starting to stir. That's exactly what these stories deserve, Sienna finished, stepping forward. More platforms, more voices, more truth. Looking at my sister, I saw genuine change in her eyes. The past months hadn't been easy. There were still awkward family dinners and tense moments, but we were finding our way forward. Will you help? I asked her. With the series? Your interview was one of the most powerful parts of the film. You want me to work with you? As a producer, you understand both sides of betrayal now. That perspective could be valuable. She blinked back tears, careful not to disturb her sleeping son. I'd like that. Speaking of perspective, Sarah called from across the lobby. The Hollywood Reporter review is in. They're calling it a raw, unflinching look at infidelity that somehow manages to find hope without forgiveness. Without forgiveness? My mother's voice came from behind me. I turned to find both my parents standing there, looking uncertain. Dad? Mom? I didn't know you were coming. Wendy invited us, my father said gruffly. We've been wrong about a lot of things. We watched the documentary last week, my mother added. It helped us understand everything. Emma chose that moment to wake up, her tiny fists waving. My mother's eyes locked onto her granddaughter. May I? She asked hesitantly. I carefully transferred Emma to her arms, watching as my daughter worked her usual magic. My mother's face softened instantly. She looks just like you did as a baby, she whispered. Strong like her mother, too, my father added. Parker appeared with his camera, ever the documentarian. Mind if I capture this? Might be good for the series pitch. I nodded, watching through his viewfinder as my fractured family began to heal. Sienna showing her son to our father, Wendy discussing Netflix negotiations with Sarah, Isabel coordinating with other documentary subjects about future interviews. Emma's happy gurgle drew my attention back to the present moment. You know, my mother said quietly, when you first posted that video, I thought you were destroying our family. But you weren't, were you? You were forcing us to face the truth. Truth hurts sometimes, I replied, but lies hurt more. And now? She asked. What truth are you chasing next? I looked around the lobby at all these strong women, each with their own story of survival. At my sister, learning to live with her choices. At my daughter, who would grow up knowing her mother's strength. Now? I smiled. Now we tell more stories. We give more voices to the voiceless. We show that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a better one. Emma reached for me, and I took her back, breathing in her sweet baby scent. Ready to make more movies, little one? I whispered. She grabbed my necklace, the one Wendy had given me in the hospital, and gurgled again. I'll take that as a yes, Parker laughed, still filming. Standing there, surrounded by family, both old and new, broken and rebuilt, I finally felt complete. Not because I'd won an award, or because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd found my voice again. And this time, I was never going to let anyone silence it.